marriage. People actually want to get divorced because they think so highly of marriage. And if the marriage is disappointing, they want to be able to get out and often go on to a new marriage.
Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into a topic that has been on my mind for a while: the status of marriage nowadays. We will explore how our understanding of marriage has shifted from its initial intent and why it's crucial to re examine this institution through the best of lenses. What do you think marriage is? What is your understanding of marriage? When we ask around us, we often hear that marriage is when two people fall in love and want to spend the rest of their lives together, or some version of that story. And certainly that is not false. But, and this should come as no surprise to you given the nature of my content, I personally think marriage, as designed by God, is a profound covenant between a man and a woman. I believe anything outside of that could look like it on surface, but it is counterfeit, and that it is not marriage. I know this is unpopular in 2024, but it is my belief. I also think, and I should say that I know at least, that as long as two people follow today's trends, today's understanding of marriage, they will not be satisfied. They will never attain whatever they're seeking. In the video sample we just saw, the attorney mentions that people divorce because they hold a marriage in high regards. And so when they get into it and it is not what they dreamed of or planned or imagined it to be, they get out and look for the next relationship, still seeking that thing. I couldn't agree more. When I ask around me, people do look for something specific, for a beautiful relationship, and they get out of marriage because that marriage isn't it. So if I may spoil it for you, allow me to bust your bubble, because mine has been busted. That thing we are looking for isn't there. The plan we have, it will fall apart. That dream we had, we better wake up. Why? Well, because we keep getting into God's things, but push God out of them. We keep trying to live the life God gave us and push Him out of that very same life. The biblical purpose of marriage is multifaceted. It encompasses companionship, procreation, mutual support, purity, avoiding sexual immorality, but most importantly, reflecting the relationship between Christ and the church. Let's take a look at some biblical verses that shed light on what marriage truly is and its divine purpose. Genesis tells us that therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Ephesians tells us a lot of things about relationships, but one being husbands must love their wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, and that wives must submit to their own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife. First Peter tells us that husbands should live with their wives in an understanding way and show them honor as the weaker vessel, since the women are heirs with you of the grace of life. First Corinthians tells us that since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband. Hebrews tells us that marriage should be honored by all, and that the marriage bed should be kept pure because God will judge the adulterer and the sexually immoral. So these verses highlight the unity, love, mutual respect, things that should characterize a marriage. But they also outline the roles of husband and wife, with the husband being a loving leader and the wife being a supportive partner, among many things. Let's contrast this that we just saw with some current societal trends that we see today. There is an increasing emphasis on sexual promiscuity, selfishness, transactional relationships, godless marriages. We see random divorces because people fall out of love. We see virtual infidelity, a breakdown of roles, a lack of submission from wives, a lack of protection from husbands. But why is this happening? The truth is, we are witnessing the perversion of everything good, beautiful, and pure. There is an attack on God's principles, and that is not an accident. I keep bringing this verse up, and I will keep bringing it for every episode because it is oh so relevant. The Bible teaches us in Ephesians 6:12 that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. So the modern trends we see today are a far cry from God's original design for marriage. They often obviously lead to broken homes, hurt, a loss of true joy and companionship that marriage was meant to bring. So, back to that video. Why do people still want to get married then? Well, it's because deep down, we all have an intrinsic desire for companionship. Again, in the Word, Genesis tells us that God said it is not good for men to be alone, and that is how another human was made to begin with. God saw immediately that a person was not meant to be alone, and this longing for a lifelong companion is rooted in our very creation. So what's the gap then? People want to get married, marriage is good, yet people keep getting out of marriages. Well, like I said, we keep getting into God's things and leaving God out of them. For a marriage to be successful and healthy, it should be based on God's principles, meaning we can and should switch from today's trends to godly principles and see how it works out. And I keep saying over and over that wisdom is wisdom. So if you are still here and you are a non-believer, a non-religious person listening to this, it so very much applies to you as well. And I encourage you, I beg of you to give it a shot. Wisdom is wisdom. It is applicable everywhere, all the time. Okay, what wisdom though? So marriage shouldn't be selfishness. It should be love and sacrifice. It shouldn't be disrespect and rebellion. It should be respect and submission. It shouldn't be infidelity and shopping around for the next partner, I guess, but it should be faithfulness. It shouldn't be divorce and on to the next marriage because I am bored. It should be lifelong commitment. It shouldn't be man or woman centered or, husband and wife centered. It should be God centered. It shouldn't be a transactional relationship. What can I get out of you? What can you get out of me? How am I being treated? How, are you being treated? Are we satisfied with the other person? It should be mutual support. It shouldn't be holding grudges and counting offenses. It should be patience and forgiveness. It shouldn't be deception and secrets and hidden places. and malice. It should be honesty and transparency. It shouldn't be pride and self-centeredness, like I said, me, 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 me. It should be humility and service. It shouldn't be, again, an individual agenda, me, myself, and I. It should be you and I and God. So when we think of marriage, when we witness marriage, when we are in marriage, or when we are thinking of getting out of marriage, we need to see the bigger picture, the bigger battle. The attacks on marriage are part of a broader spiritual warfare. So be wise and build your marriage on the foundation of God's timeless wisdom. Why, though? Well, marriage, when grounded in these, godly principles, can be a source of immense joy, strength, and fulfillment, even health. Seriously. So I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you for joining me today. Let me know your thoughts on this topic as well as your experiences. Send this episode to someone who desperately needs to hear it, or even send this to a couple who you look up to for their commitment to each other, for their perseverance, for their respect and love for one another, for their love of God. And of course, click that subscribe button to stick around and keep the conversation going, because we are just getting started. I will see you next time.